Greetings, I'm Matt Hafner. I'm the consul here at U.S. Consulate General Perth. I'm here to talk to you today about how your investment in the United States can lead to a visa that will help you grow your business and develop your business in the United States. Today's topic, I'm going to be talking about E-2 Treaty Trader Investor Visas, what they are, the requirements, and how to make an application in Australia at either the U.S. Consulate General in Sydney, Melbourne, or Perth. So I'm going to share my presentation with you now. Okay. The E-2 visa really symbolizes the partnership between the United States and Australia. It is a special category of visas only available to countries that have a treaty with the United States. It demonstrates our strong political, economic, and social ties between our two countries. I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about how to apply for a visa and what the requirements are. But first, I would like to introduce our trade counselor, Mr. Mark Russell, who can talk to you a little bit more on why you should invest in the United States and some resources to get started in doing that.
Thank you, Matt. Again, my name is Mark Russell. I'm the commercial counselor for the U.S. Department of Commerce here in Australia. For those that are familiar with that term, in Australian terms, I'm the trade commissioner. Our job is similar to what Austrade does. We advise helping Australian companies. We help American companies do business here in Australia. We also encourage and we promote foreign direct investment to the United States. And our trade promotion arm at the U.S. Department of Commerce and our trade promotion program is called Select USA. The Select USA, as you can see, it's we aid and we facilitate foreign direct investment into the United States. We help international companies that want to expand and do operations. We can do market research for the companies. We can introduce them to economic development organizations in the United States. We can advise and counsel them as far as regulatory compliance and all the issues that you might encounter when you're looking to invest in the United States. We have contacts with all the 50 different states. In our minds, as a federal agency, the 50 states are equal. But as obviously in your mind, you'll be selective as far as you want to invest, and we can help you do that as well. The Select USA program, as I mentioned, is based in Washington, D.C. The team there is there and ready to assist you, and we can introduce you to them as needed. One of the pinnacle events that we do every year is our Select USA Investment Summit. At this summit, for instance, last year in 2022, we had over 4,000 delegates from around the world travel to Washington, D.C. to basically learn about what they need to do to invest in the United States. At the summit, also, pretty much all the different 50 states will have different, will be there, and there'll be a pavilion where you can meet with the different economic development organizations at this event. We also have keynote speakers such as you see in this picture, Secretary Romano from the Department of Commerce, Secretary of State Andy Blinken, and also President Biden all spoke at the summit in 2022. The next summit will be in May 2023, again in Washington, D.C., and we hope to see you there. Last year in 2022, we brought a delegation of over 45 Australian companies to that event, and we'd be happy to introduce you to these companies, and you can hear directly from them their experiences they had at the summit. My team here in Australia, we have two individuals that are the lead specialists, so to speak, for that work with foreign direct investment and will advise you. Georgia Harwell covers Western Australia here, and also South Australia and Victoria, and then Duncan Archibald covers New South Wales and Queensland. Me and my two colleagues, we're here to help you, and we're looking forward to hearing from you. Please do not feel free to reach out to us if you have questions. And we hope to see you at the summit. We hope to see you in the United States, expanding your operations and doing well. So thank you very much. I want to turn it back over to Matt.
Thank you, Mark. I would say it's probably a very exciting time to think about investments in the United States, especially with our closeness of our two economies and the closeness of our relationships. Investing in the United States, of course, is a big step, and applying for the Sprite visa is also a complicated matter. There are various different visas for traveling, work, related things to do in the United States. Really, before you plan any business as part of your own due diligence, you're going to want to talk to the right people who can advise you on the right track. An immigration attorney or specialist might be the first place you want to talk to. But in broad categories, most Australians, if they're traveling to the United States for business purposes, not necessarily going to work in the United States, but to conduct business meetings, attending trade shows, the majority of Australians can do that on the visa waiver program using ESTA. If they're planning to stay longer than 90 days, you'll generally need a tourist B1, B2 tourist visa. Companies that are operating in the United States to bring non-US citizen workers to the United States will generally use the H and L categories. H is for specialty workers, L is for intra-company transfers. Unlike an H or an L visa, though, E1, which is more about trade, and E2, which is more about investment, they don't require any involvement of our Department of Homeland Security or an approved petition. Really, the consulates in Australia become the first place where you process those visas, and they're processed directly through the consular sections in either Sydney, Melbourne, or Perth. In Australia, we have a very specific business class of visa, the E3 specialty worker, occupation worker for Australian workers. That is different from an E2 in the sense that an E3 is for a worker in the United States. An E2 will be more for the investor, an entrepreneur, someone starting a business or growing their business, growing a subsidiary in the United States. I'm not going to talk very much about E1. Actually, I won't talk about E1s at all. They're similar in their regard for the requirements for an E2, but I'm really going to focus on E2 as they're the most commonly used category in the E1 or E2 world. All right, so what is an E visa? We have either E1s or E2s, and they're only for nationals of countries that have a treaty in place with the United States. Luckily, Australia is one of those countries. If you're another nationality living in Australia but interested in starting a business in the United States, you can see the full list of treaties on that website I've provided there below. And E1 is for those companies that are carrying out substantial trade between the United States and the treaty country. And an E2 is more about investing in an enterprise operating in the United States. Okay, so let's talk the broad strokes of what is required for an E2 visa. As I said before, you're really going to want to talk to an immigration advisor, attorney, or your company's larger HR structure before you go through this process. It's not something you can start very quickly. It's not like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to start a business, I'm going to open an E2 visa. Like any business operation, it's going to require thought and development. As much as you choose your investments in the United States, you're going to want to proceed through this carefully and deliberately. So the general requirements. There has to be a treaty, which is the obvious legal requirement. And luckily, between the United States and Australia, this exists. And the individual and or business have to be a national of the country. So this means that the applicant is Australian and then the business is Australian in origin. Now, the third requirement is important. The applicant has to be invested or actively in the process of investment. So this can't be just purely speculative. The business has to be something that is going to be real and develop into a business that hires and develops, grows revenue. It can't just be parking money into a bank account in the United States. It has to be a process of creating a real business. Which dovetails right into the next requirement that the investment must be real, operating commercial enterprise. The goal is to create a business that grows in the United States. The investment has to be irrevocably committed. That has to be a real investment that involves risk. As I said before, it can't just be money put into a US bank account. It has to be committed to growing into a business. The investment has to be substantial, and that can be a little bit of a nebulous term. It depends really on the size of the business. So the smaller a business is, the larger the initial investment is going to have to be. If it's a rather large investment, then the amount of initial investment is going to be smaller. It will depend on really the size of the business. The investment has to be more than marginal. Marginal here means just enough to support one person or just to support like a single investor's family. That's not the goal of this program. It's the goal like to grow large, sustainable businesses. And then the next step, we'll talk a little bit more in detail about the next different categories of workers that can go on this kind of visa. So the initial investor or the initial applicant, the investor has the ability to direct and develop the enterprise. They are have an active role in the business in the United States. And the next, slightly different, if the applicant is an employee, they must have specialized skills necessary for the operation or serve as a supervisor or an executive. And the final point is the applicant has to have an intent to depart the United States at the end of their E-2 status. There is no limit, however, on the number of times an applicant can renew. It's not subject to annual caps like H-1B would be, or the amount of time in the United States is not limited like certain visa categories are. So as an E-2, there's certain kinds of employees you can have. You can have an executive supervisory employee. This is someone whose goal is to provide guidance and control, managerial oversight in a component of the organization. The other might be essential employees. If you're starting a new business in the United States, you need employees that understand your business and operations. They have essential skills that will help further develop the business in the United States. Now, in order to qualify for an employment visa, the employer in the United States can't be on a different visa category than try to bring over employees, the initial investor. And these specialized essential employees, these are going to change over time. What might be an essential employee at the beginning as the business grows may not be considered essential at the time. It's a little bit different bar than a specialized knowledge worker is. And foreign language skills or knowledge of the culture in and of itself doesn't make someone an essential employee. Once again, you're going to want to talk to an immigration attorney about the employees you want to send to the United States. Just make sure you get their good guidance before you apply. The good news about all the documentation. Oh, sorry, just to add one small point from the previous slide. Someone doesn't have to currently be an employee of the organization to be sent as an essential employee in the United States. They can be a new hire. Okay, supporting documentations. There are some listed here. You're going to want to look at our website, au.usembassy.gov, or our visa application website, ustraveldocs.com/au, to see all the requirements. I don't want to add anything, talking too much generality here, just in case some of these things change. You're going to want to submit the required visa applications, pay the required fees. The DS-156E is a really important document for all e-visa applications because it really lays out all the legal requirements that the consular officer will be able to review very quickly. Other documents to show your investment might be the proof of your own nationality, the investment documents, proof that your operation is running in the United States, proof any of investments, invoices, purchase orders, things of that nature. Now, after you've been approved for your E-2 visa, your initial length of stay will be 2 years in the United States, which you can extend either by applying for a new visa or extending your stay while in the United States. When you apply, you must have the intention to depart when your E-2 status terminates, but there are no limits on the number of times that you can reapply for a visa or extend your status. Dependents, even if your spouse is not the same nationality as you, they could qualify for E-2 derivative status to join you in the United States. Same with your family members. Your spouse and children don't have to have the same nationality as you or as the treaty charter country. But if there are issuance fees, they'd have to pay the same as your Australian nationality. If in the United States they seek work opportunities, they need to get those permissions from the United States Department of Homeland Security before they can work in the United States. Once again, this is something to talk to an immigration lawyer about while you're either pre-application or in the United States. So the first thing to do is for the application is to go to our website and request an E-2 appointment on our visa website, US Travel Docs. You'll then submit the supporting documentations to the appropriate consulate you wish to apply at, either Sydney, Perth, or Melbourne. We do our best to respond to appointment requests within 15 days, depending on how busy or the period of time we are. Different consulates have different submission requirements, so be sure you're checking with our website to make sure you're doing the right process for the right consulate. These fees, though currently at $205, are subject to change. Just make sure you're checking our website for the most up-to-date information. So in summary, here are the links you're going to want to look at to find out about how to apply for an E-2 visa. Really, just to reiterate, this is an excellent time to think about growing your business in the United States. We have resources in the US government to help you find that investment opportunity with Select USA or our US Commercial Service in Mission, Australia. We try to make our information clear about how to apply for a visa. So please look at our website, get this information, and good luck with your investments and growing your business in the United States. Thank you very much.